What's going on, guys? I am back with day 53 of this off-season growth phase, whatever you want to call it. This was my mixed leg day session, hamstring focus still. We're still trying to bring up hamstrings a little bit. Obviously, the volume is there in the weekly format, but we've moved the structure around a little bit as of a couple of weeks ago so that my back days are after my rest days. So this is now my last day before a rest day. I'll be resting tomorrow. Total session time here was 1 hour and 4 minutes, so this is actually one of my shorter sessions for the week. I think it's just because the volume for this session is relatively low, since it is, the third working day in a row right before rest day. This is a little bit lower, so that we're not just overreaching on that last day before resting. Starting with the prone hamstring curl here, lying hamstring curl, whatever you want to call it, went up to 150 pounds on my first two sets here, which are 8 to 12 reps. I was going to say 2 top sets, which doesn't really make sense, but kind of is, because third set is a drop set, or rather back off set, drop down to 100 pounds, and then the rep goal becomes 15 to 20 on that third set. But for these first two, took a weight progression. Last week it was 140, so actually went up 10 pounds here, pretty big jump, but it felt really good. This movement was just something I was connecting with really well today. I kind of played around with my positioning on this machine. You'll see I switched back from the Cybex to the Nautilus machine. This machine involves my lower back a little less. I feel like I get just a slightly worse stretch on the hamstrings, but I also get like significantly less back involvement. So the trade-off there is better towards this machine. It depends. I like to switch back and forth. If I hit a wall on one machine, I'll go to the next one. But for now, this one's feeling best, especially since I kind of dialed in the positioning on this a little bit better than I had in the past. So really happy with this. Hit 13 reps with 150, and then 10 reps with 150, and then 18 reps with 100. That third set was the same weight as last week, 100 pounds. That will stay the same next week as well. I think last week I hit 16 reps. This week it was 18, and then again next week, goal is going to be 20 or more. I'm going to need to get that third set up to 22 before I take a weight increase there. But yeah, this felt good. No complaints here. Really do like this machine a lot just because of how little it involves the back. I feel like I can position myself much better here versus the Cybex. And yeah, nothing more to say about this one. So moving into the seated leg curl, I think I said last week I was considering dropping this machine and switching it out for a different one. Ended up sticking with it. Wanted to see how it felt and change the positioning of the not the knee pad, but that leg, the ankle pad a little bit. So that felt a lot better. 115, which is the same on the top set as last week, but hit 12 reps instead of 11. And then I took a weight increase on that second set, went up from 90 pounds to 95 and hit 16 reps. We'll probably keep that the same next week since I still haven't topped out the reps on that first set. If it was like I was hitting 115 for 17 and then 95 for 16, I'd probably just go up to 120 and 100 next week. But I think next week everything stays the same here, 115 and 95, just because I need to take smaller weight progressions on this movement to make sure I'm not overreaching. It's very easy to fall out of form, at least for me on this movement, where I start kind of swinging into this a little bit and bringing my hips forward and kind of almost pushing with my whole body back into the pad, which is what you want to avoid, right? You want to keep the hips locked, glutes pressed into the seat, keep that upper body, that upper torso brace like you see here, and then just use nothing but the hamstring to really contract and drive that movement down. So it felt good today. This was probably the best day I've actually had on these in I think 3 weeks maybe. So this was solid. That was a really good start to the session between the lying leg curls and this. And then next, we're going to be moving into my hack squat, which was also a progression here today. This was really good today. Last week, I finally found the perfect setup for me on this. So I expect probably a week or two more of this kind of jumping up week over week really easily and then maybe hitting a little bit of a plateau, but we'll see how it goes. Jumped up from 300 to 310 and hit 12 reps on the top set. And kept it at 310 for the second set as well. Did not do a back off here. Usually if I hit the high end of the range on that first set, I'm keeping the weight the same on the second set. So 310 for 12 and then 310 for 10 was the progression here. You'll see kind of with how I set my feet up now, which is what I was talking about when I said last week I got my positioning set up a little bit better. With how my feet are set up here, which is a little bit closer and slightly higher, but not high enough to stop fully involving the quads and making this a great quad movement, I'm able to get a lot more depth through the movement. When I drop my feet down too much, even though that brings greater knee flexion, it also, for me, brings greater knee pain and causes me to have to space my feet out to the point where they're almost wider than shoulder width for me by a good margin, just because I can't get the depth that I need to get with that lower stance. So right here, right where I have it dialed in, it feels like the perfect balance of depth, knee flexion, and honestly just foot placement for a good drive coming out of the bottom of the movement. So this was really solid, really happy with this. Every rep felt good. That first set actually felt really great today. I felt like I pushed it a little harder than I usually do on these. Obviously I don't train with somebody, so I don't have a spotter for these most of the time. So if I did, I would probably have been able to get 2 more reps on both sets here. Maybe 2 on the top set, 3 on that second set even. But if you have someone to take advantage of in that kind of a situation, use them as a spotter, go for it. You can really go very close to failure pretty safely on that movement if you have someone to help move that sled, right? Moving into leg extensions, this one's been giving me a little bit of an issue with my left knee the last couple of weeks. Not like any actual knee pain, but almost like a little bit of nerve pain alongside my knee. So just kind of focused on how I was setting up here with this, tried a couple new positions on this today. Overall, took progressions though. Went 110 for 17, which is a 1 rep progression from last week. And then I upped the weight by 10 pounds on that second set. I decided I didn't want to do 100 and I wanted to go right up to 110 and keep these the same. So got 110 for 14 on the second set. The rep goal for these is 12 to 20. These are a very, very high volume movement. But I'm pretty happy with where those landed. 17 and 14 is totally fine. We're just going to stick with this weight and keep working that up over the coming weeks. Again, the goal here is not to move the whole stack. It's not to move, as much as you're going to be squatting, right? The goal is just to add some extra volume for the quads here, use these as some high rep work. The legs, I think something people forget is that the legs in general respond very well to high volume workloads. That's kind of the case for all extremities. Arms, legs, they tend to do very well with high volume work. So adding in some high volume work, at least for your isolation movements, can be really beneficial for arms, legs, things of that sort. For your arms, you really are only doing high volume work. For the legs, obviously there's a mix, right? Now moving into my adductor work for the day, this was the same as last week. No weight increase here. 175 for the top set, 135 for the back off set, hit 15 and 14. And I think that was a rep match on the top set and then a 1 rep progression on that back off set. So progressions, sure, nothing crazy here. It felt good though. I did change you'll notice my foot positioning is back to the far peg on the kind of foot placement here. I go back and forth between that top peg and that bottom peg. They both feel like they effectively, work well for me, but I do get a little bit of a better stretch when I can extend my legs out further like this rather than having them on the top peg. So today I just wanted to move back to it, see if I could break the kind of couple weeks of plateauing on this movement that I've had. Kind of sort of did. Again, we took 1 rep on that second set as a progression. Any progression is a progression, so that's fine. It still felt really solid. Still felt like good work, so I'm happy with this. I'll take it. No complaints with this movement. I do like this machine a lot more than the Precor, which I was using previously. Again, this is another Cybex machine, so I'm pretty much predominantly using almost all Cybex for my leg work now. If you have access to it, it is some of my favorite of the older equipment. Obviously, that's mostly what this gym has, so I like it. Last movement for the day. Seated calf raise here. This was something I've been, having some issues dialing in kind of this whole growth phase. Just trying to figure out what weight and rep scheme works for me on this. And I think we finally found it. Ended up last week, I think my top set was 105, and then I backed off to like 70. And I realized that was too big of a back off set, right? Or too big of a weight drop. I didn't need to drop that much because I was just getting fatigued around the same point purely because of just the fatigue from doing high reps, not necessarily the load. So today I just did 100 pounds across all 3 sets, and it came out really well. Hit 100 for 19, 15, 13. Again, the goal here is 12 to 20, so all of those were within the goal range. That top set or first set was really close to the high end of the range, so hopefully next week we push that up and can just throw 5 pounds on here, and then keep that second and third set the same. But this felt really good this week. I was really happy with how this progressed. Again, my goal here for this movement is to just really focus on that contraction and drive up out of the bottom, not to focus so much on just moving a lot of weight or focusing on the reps, but to focus on the feel for this movement specifically. You know, my calf training across the week has been, I'm training them 3 days a week, and I feel like we've made really good progress on them, so I am happy with how things are panning out. This is kind of the last one I needed to get dialed in, and it feels like it's there now, so that's awesome. But that is going to be it for today, guys. Pretty short and sweet session. Again, shortest session of the week, so pretty easy and quick to get through. But tomorrow I will be putting out a video on my PED stack design, kind of how that all goes together, my philosophy towards that, my approach towards that, and how we are working to modulate that throughout the off season and also into a diet or a deficit, and kind of what that looks like for me and how you could potentially apply that to yourself. But until then, guys, take it easy.